Let me tell y'all something real quick. If you want to do something big in this life, if you got a dream so big it scares you, people are going to call you crazy. They're going to say, that ain't realistic. They're going to hit you with, be more practical. But let me ask you something. Who do you know that ever changed the world by being practical? See, every successful person you admire, every billionaire, every entertainer, every entrepreneur, they were delusional enough to believe they could do what others thought was impossible. Now, I know what some of y'all are thinking, but I don't have the connections. I ain't got the money. I wasn't born into the right family. Listen, nobody said the road would be easy, but if you let those excuses stop you, you ain't ever gonna make it. You gotta be so locked in on your dream that people think you lost your mind. When you tell them your vision, they should look at you sideways like, you sure about that? That's how you know you're dreaming big enough. See, the problem is too many people think realistic and possible are the same thing. Nah, everything you see today, airplanes, skyscrapers, smartphones, it all came from somebody being delusional enough to say, I can make that happen. So I need you to stop playing small. I need you to stop doubting yourself. I need you to be so delusional that you see yourself winning before anybody else does. You got to see it, believe it, and move like it's already done. And when the setbacks come, and trust me, they will, you don't let them break you, you let them shape you. Because the difference between those who make it and those who don't ain't talent, money, or luck. It's grit. It's the ability to keep pushing when everything is telling you to quit. So be bold, be relentless, and above all, be delusional. Because the only people who ever made history were crazy enough to believe they could. Now, go chase that dream like your life depends on it, because it does. Let me tell you something. If people ain't looking at you sideways when you talk about your dream, you're not dreaming big enough. If nobody is laughing, if nobody is shaking their head, if nobody is telling you to be realistic, then you might just be thinking too small. See, the thing about having a vision that's bigger than you is that most people won't understand it. And that's fine. They're not supposed to, because it wasn't given to them, it was given to you. When you start telling people what you want to do with your life, don't be surprised when they hit you with doubt. They'll say things like, nobody in our family ever did that, or that's too hard, you should just take the safe route. But let me ask you something. Who ever changed the world by playing it safe? Who ever made history by thinking small? Nobody. Every great innovator, every game changer, every legend you know, had people telling them they were out of their minds. You think people didn't call the Wright brothers crazy? Two men with no fancy degrees talking about building a machine that could fly in the sky? People laughed at them. People doubted them. But they had something inside them, a belief so strong, it didn't matter who said it couldn't be done. And because they were crazy enough to believe, we now have airplanes flying across the world every single day. What about Oprah? A young black woman from Mississippi fired from her first TV job because they told her she wasn't fit for television. Imagine if she had listened. Imagine if she had let their doubts define her. But she saw something greater. She had a vision that nobody else could see. And she was willing to push through every no, every rejection, every setback until she built an empire. See, that's the secret right there. The people who make it, the ones who really make it, aren't the ones who are the smartest or the richest or the luckiest. They're the ones who believe in themselves beyond reason. They're the ones who refuse to let logic, statistics, or other people's doubts shrink their vision. They're the ones who are so stubborn, so relentless, so delusional in their faith that they keep moving even when there's no evidence that it's going to work. Most people live their lives trapped in a box of what's realistic, a box of what society says is possible. They stay in that box because it feels safe. Because inside that box, there's no risk, no failure, no judgment. But let me tell you something. That box, it's also a prison. It's where dreams go to die. It's where people trade in their God-given potential for a life of mediocrity. And if you're serious about your dream, if you're really about this life, then you got to be willing to break out of that box, even when it feels uncomfortable. Let me give you a little warning. When you start thinking big, when you start moving different, some people aren't going to like it. And I'm not just talking about strangers. Sometimes it's the people closest to you, your friends, your family, even your own parents, who will be the first to tell you that you're aiming too high. Not because they don't love you, but because they can't see what you see, because your vision is bigger than their imagination. That's why you got to be careful who you share your dreams with. Some people are dream killers, not because they're bad people, but because they don't have the mindset to understand what you're trying to do. They've been conditioned to think small, to play it safe, to accept life as it is. And if you're not strong enough, they'll project that fear onto you. They'll convince you to shrink, to settle, to stay in that little comfort zone where it's safe. But let me tell you something. Safety and success don't live in the same neighborhood. Every person you admire had to step into the unknown. They had to risk looking foolish. They had to ignore the doubters. Because faith doesn't work with evidence. If you're waiting for proof before you start believing, you'll never start. You have to see it before it happens. You have to walk like it's already done. You have to train your mind to believe in the unseen. Think about it. Every skyscraper, every invention, every major achievement started as nothing more than an idea, a thought, a vision. But it took somebody crazy enough to believe in that vision even when nobody else did. Somebody bold enough to take that first step even when there was no guarantee of success. Somebody willing to look like a fool, to fail in public, to get knocked down over and over again just for the chance to make their dream a reality. You have to be that person. You have to be the one who believes so hard that nothing can shake you. Not rejection, not failure, not setbacks. Because if you're waiting for people to approve of your dream before you go after it, you're going to be waiting forever. Most people can't see past their own fears, so they'll never understand yours. But that's not your problem. Your job is not to convince them. Your job is to prove them wrong. And don't get it twisted. This isn't just about business or fame or money. This applies to everything in life. Maybe your dream is to break generational curses. Maybe your dream is to be the first in your family to go to college. Maybe your dream is to build a legacy that outlives you. Whatever it is, you got to want it so bad that you refuse to give up no matter what obstacles come your way. Because here's the truth. If you don't believe in your dream, nobody else will. If you don't see yourself winning, nobody else will. You have to be the first person in line for your own vision. You have to be your own biggest fan, your own biggest supporter. Because the moment you start doubting, the moment you start shrinking, that's when your dreams start slipping away. It's not about how talented you are. It's not about how much money you have. It's about how much faith you have in yourself. It's about how relentless you are. It's about how many times you're willing to get back up after you've been knocked down. Because success is not reserved for the lucky, it's reserved for the bold. It's reserved for the people who are so committed to their dream that they'll chase it no matter what. So go ahead, be unrealistic, be unreasonable, be delusional, because that's the only way to turn the impossible into reality. Realistic thinking is the #1 killer of dreams. People will tell you to be realistic as if it's a compliment, as if staying inside the boundaries of what's normal is the secret to success. But let me ask you, whoever did anything extraordinary by thinking realistically? Who built an empire, changed the world, or created something revolutionary by only doing what was reasonable? The difference between realistic and possible is the difference between living an average life and doing something legendary. See, realistic is a word that people use to justify their fears. It's the excuse they use when they're too afraid to take risks, too scared to step into the unknown. They'll tell you to be practical, to stick to what's safe, to follow the path that makes sense. But let me tell you something. Success doesn't make sense. The biggest achievements in history weren't born from logic. They were born from belief. If you don't believe me, look around. Look at the buildings that scrape the sky, the cars that move without gasoline, the phones in your pocket that connect you to people across the world in an instant. You think any of that was realistic when somebody first dreamed it up? You think people didn't laugh at the idea of a machine flying in the air, or a little metal box that could hold 1 million songs, or a website that would make people billionaires overnight? None of that was realistic. None of it made sense. But it was possible. The problem is that most people confuse what's realistic with what's possible, and that's where they get stuck. Just because something hasn't been done before doesn't mean it can't be done. Just because nobody in your family has done it doesn't mean you can't be the first. Just because your circumstances don't make it easy doesn't mean it's impossible. The only difference between those who succeed and those who don't is that successful people refuse to let the limits of reality define what they can achieve. Reality is just a reflection of what has already been done. It's not a prediction of what's to come. If people only ever did what was realistic, nothing would ever evolve. Nobody would push boundaries, nobody would take risks, and the world would stay exactly the same. But change doesn't come from people who accept reality as it is. Change comes from people who see reality as something they can shape, something they can redefine. The biggest mistake you can make is allowing other people's definition of realistic to shrink your vision. Because when you start thinking big, when you start dreaming beyond what's normal, the first thing people will do is try to pull you back down. Not because they don't want you to succeed, but because they can't see what you see. They don't have your perspective. They don't have your faith. They don't have your vision. You tell someone you're going to start a business and they'll say, that's risky, most businesses fail. You tell someone you're going to be a millionaire and they'll say, that's unrealistic. Only a few people ever make that kind of money. You tell someone you're going to be the best in your field and they'll say, that's a long shot. Maybe you should have a backup plan. But here's what you need to understand. When people say something is unrealistic, what they really mean is that they don't believe they can do it. They're speaking from their own fears, their own limitations, their own experiences. That has nothing to do with you. What's unrealistic to them might be possible for you. What they can't see for themselves, you might already see clearly. That's why you can't let their doubts become your reality. When you listen to the people who say, be realistic, what they're really telling you is to lower your expectations, to settle, to give up before you even start. But here's the truth. Every single person who has ever accomplished something great was called unrealistic at some point. Every single person who ever broke barriers was told to lower their expectations. Every single person who ever reached the top had to ignore the voices telling them to stay at the bottom. Think about it. If Bezos had been realistic, he would have stayed at his Wall Street job instead of selling books out of his garage. If Elon Musk had been realistic, he wouldn't have tried to send rockets into space when the first 3 blew up. If Serena Williams had been realistic, she would have accepted that tennis wasn't a sport for people who looked like her. If Michael Jordan had been realistic, he would have quit when he got cut from his high school basketball team. Being realistic is what keeps people stuck in the same job they hate for 40 years. Being realistic is what keeps people from ever trying something new. Being realistic is what convinces people that their dreams are too big, that success is for somebody else, that life is about settling instead of striving. But let me ask you something. What if the people you look up to had listened to that? What if the people who inspire you had chosen to be realistic instead of pushing for what was possible? Where would we be? What kind of world would we live in if nobody had ever dared to think beyond what was normal? See, the people who change the world don't do it by being realistic. They do it by seeing what's possible even when nobody else does. They do it by pushing past their fears, by refusing to accept limits, by stepping out on faith even when there's no guarantee of success. And that's what you have to do. Because if you're waiting for the perfect circumstances, for the right moment, for everything to make sense before you take action, you'll be waiting forever. The conditions will never be perfect. There will always be obstacles, always be challenges, always be people telling you that your dreams are too big. But none of that matters. What matters is whether or not you believe in what's possible. And let's be real. What's realistic today was impossible yesterday. 100 years ago, flying across the world in a few hours was impossible. Talking to someone face to face through a screen was impossible. The idea of making millions of dollars from a website was impossible. But somebody refused to believe that. Somebody saw the possibilities before they became reality. Somebody was willing to look crazy, to take risks, to fail over and over again until they made it happen. That's the mindset you need. You have to stop measuring your dreams against what's realistic and start measuring them against what's possible. You have to stop letting logic dictate what you go after and start letting your faith lead the way. Because logic will tell you to play it safe. Logic will tell you to lower your expectations. Logic will tell you that your chances are slim, that the odds are against you, that you should just be happy with what you have. But faith says take the risk. Faith says ignore the doubts. Faith says it doesn't matter if it's never been done before, you might be the first. Faith says if you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hands. Faith says nothing is impossible if you refuse to quit. So when people tell you to be realistic, don't listen. When they tell you your dreams are too big, keep going. When they say the odds aren't in your favor, prove them wrong. Because at the end of the day, realistic thinking never changed the world. But belief moves mountains. Belief turns dreams into reality. Belief is the difference between living an average life and building something that lasts forever. If you want to achieve something great, you have to see it before it happens. You have to believe it when there's no evidence. You have to walk, talk, and move like it's already done, even when everything around you says otherwise. That's the mindset of champions. That's the mindset of people who don't just dream, but make things happen. Most people wait for proof before they believe, but that's not how success works. Success starts in the mind before it ever shows up in reality. Look at the greatest athletes, the biggest entrepreneurs, the most successful people in the world. They didn't wait for their success to appear before they started acting like they belonged at the top. They carried themselves with the confidence of someone who had already won, even when they were struggling, even when they were unknown, even when nobody believed in them. They saw themselves at the finish line before the race even started. Your mind is powerful. What you focus on, what you believe, what you constantly tell yourself, it shapes your reality. If you see yourself as broke, struggling, and stuck, that's exactly what you'll be. If you see yourself as successful, powerful, and capable, your actions will start lining up with that vision, and eventually reality will have no choice but to catch up. The problem is, most people let their circumstances dictate their belief instead of letting their belief dictate their circumstances. They look at their bank account, their situation, their struggles, and they say, this is just how life is. But the people who make it, the people who break through, they don't let their current reality define them. They see beyond it. Think about it. Before anyone else can believe in you, before anyone else can invest in you, before anyone else can support you, you have to believe in yourself so deeply that nothing can shake you. People can feel that energy. When you carry yourself like you've already won, when you speak with confidence, when you show up with certainty, doors start to open, opportunities come your way. But if you walk around unsure, if you talk yourself down, if you second guess your own potential, how can you expect anyone else to see your greatness? There are two types of people in this world: those who wait for permission to believe in themselves, and those who believe no matter what. The first group waits for a big break, for someone to validate them, for some outside force to give them permission to chase their dream. The second group decides they are worthy before anyone else does. They step into rooms like they belong there. They go after opportunities as if they've already won. They don't need approval because their belief is unshakable. When you start seeing yourself as the person you want to become, when you start believing you are already that person, everything changes. You walk different. You talk different. You hold yourself to a higher standard. You stop wasting time on things that don't align with your vision. You start attracting opportunities that match the energy you're putting out. The world responds to how you see yourself. If you see yourself as small, as average, as incapable, that's how the world will treat you. But if you see yourself as a winner, as a leader, as someone who is meant for more, life will start reflecting that back to you. That's why successful people act as if they've already made it long before they actually do. They dress the part. They speak with confidence. They carry themselves like they're already where they want to be. It's not arrogance, it's belief. They're not faking it. They're preparing themselves for what's coming. They're conditioning their mind to accept success as normal. Because if success feels foreign to you, if it feels like something that only happens to other people, you'll never attract it into your life. You have to normalize success in your mind before it shows up in your reality. You have to start seeing yourself as the person you want to be. If you want to be wealthy, you need to start thinking, acting, and making decisions like someone who is already wealthy. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you need to start operating like a CEO before anyone even knows your name. If you want to be the best in your field, you need to train, prepare, and work like you're already at the top. This isn't about pretending. It's about aligning your actions with your vision. It's about getting in the mindset of success so that when opportunities come, you're ready. Too many people want to win, but they don't prepare for it. They don't act like winners before the victory. They think success will change them, but the truth is, you have to change before success arrives. You have to become the person who deserves the life you want. Think about it. If you were already successful, how would you move? How would you speak? How would you carry yourself? Start doing that now. If you wait until success comes to act successful, you'll never get there. You have to walk, talk, and move like it's already done. You have to show up every day as the version of yourself that already has everything you're working for. That's how you attract it. That's how you prepare for it. That's how you make it happen. The people who succeed aren't the ones who sit around hoping, wishing, and waiting. They're the ones who see it, believe it, and move like it's already theirs. They don't wait for proof. They don't wait for validation. They don't wait for the perfect moment. They create the moment. They move with certainty. They operate as if success is inevitable. That's the mindset you need. If you don't believe in yourself, who will? If you don't carry yourself with confidence, who's going to take you seriously? If you don't see yourself as a winner, how can you expect to win? It starts with you. It starts with how you think, how you see yourself, how you move in this world. You have to claim it before it comes. You have to act like it's already done. This is why so many people stay stuck. They don't see themselves as capable. They don't believe they deserve more. They're waiting for the world to give them permission to level up. But the world doesn't work like that. You don't get what you want, you get what you believe. If you believe you are average, you will live an average life. If you believe you are destined for greatness, you will do whatever it takes to make that greatness a reality. Most people live small because they think small. They let their doubts, their fears, and their past failures dictate their future. They don't step into their full potential because they're scared to act like they belong at the top. But let me tell you something. Nobody at the top got there by accident. Nobody just stumbled into success. They saw it before it happened. They believed it when nobody else did. They moved like they had already won, and eventually reality had no choice but to catch up. You have to do the same. You have to see yourself winning before you win. You have to believe in your dream when nobody else does. You have to show up every day as if success is already yours, because the moment you start seeing yourself differently, the moment you start carrying yourself with the confidence of someone who has already made it, everything around you will start to shift. Opportunities will appear. The right people will come into your life. Doors that once seemed closed will open. It's not magic. It's stepping into the energy of success before it arrives. It's walking, talking, and moving like it's already done. And when you do that, when you fully embody the person you are destined to be, success won't just be a possibility, it will be inevitable.